Valorant has a unique cast of characters that all have varying levels of power within the meta, but with such a meta-centric game, you find people of varying ranks gravitating towards certain agents more than others. Obviously, there are a multitude of reasons for this, but it ultimately comes down to people picking the agent they think has the best chance at winning them a game. And I have a firm belief that one of the best agents you can pick for winning any game is Phoenix. He is extremely versatile and can change his playstyle quickly depending on the situation of a game. I think this is backed by the fact that Phoenix is currently only one of 5 agents to have a win rate of 50% or higher, and only one of 6 agents to have a KD above 1. This will probably change at some point, but for the time being, it makes him one of only 2 agents to have both a positive KD and win rate. But this is by no means the reason why I think he is a perfect duelist, as Reyna is the other agent with both a KD above 1 and a win rate above 50%, and I don't think she is by any means a perfect duelist, but she does share some traits with Phoenix that I will get into later. But with that being said, we should look into what makes a good duelist in Valorant, and first is the ability to enter a site and get a pick. For any duelist to be effective, they have to be able to get kills and frag out for their team consistently, and I don't think there is any duelist in particular that struggles with that. The only example I can think of is Yoru, as once a team is able to figure out his gimmicks, they can easily counter and play around his utility to the point where it is almost useless. Next, a duelist's utility has to enable him and potentially his team to initiate onto a site. There are a couple of different ways that duelists can do this, such as Yoru's TP, Jett's dash, and Reyna's flash, but as you can see, all duelists have something in their kit that allows them to engage with the enemy. Whether it comes in the form of a flash or some sort of mobility, all good duelists can do it. Something that couples with the duelist's ability to initiate a site is their ability to take space for their team. If you don't know what I am referring to, I mean an agent's ability to force people out of angles and gain parts of the map. Again, a duelist that struggles to do this is Yoru. Besides his ult, his utility doesn't have enough presence to force people out of positions. An example of a character that does this well would be Raze, who can use her grenades, boombot, and blast packs to make angles harder to hold and force people out of positions, allowing you and your team to engage the site and take space from the enemy. The final thing that makes a good duelist, and ultimately any good agent, is their adaptability. If a duelist can't produce threats across the map, then a smart team will know where they have to focus their defenses or pushes in order to abuse a team's weak link. I think a good example of a character who struggles to adapt and change their game plan is Cypher. There are only so many effective spots to place tripwires, and once a team learns those locations, they can plan countermeasures. Continuing with this point, there are also multiple agents who can play around Cypher's utility, such as Jett, Omen, and Yoru. You can also just preemptively shoot where he previously placed his utility. Again, Cypher is a prime example of a character who can adapt once an enemy is able to figure out his utility. So to sum it up, a good duelist is an agent who can enter site and get kills, take space for his team, and adapt to a situation, all while remaining effective throughout the game. Starting with the first point, let's look into how effectively Phoenix is able to enter site and get kills. His first piece of utility is his flash, which I have found to be one of my favorite flashes in the game, as it perfectly swings around corners and has a wide variety of ways to use it. Though not all are viable, there are a myriad of ways to peek with your flash that people have invented that allow you to catch your enemies off guard. With the versatility of his flash, it enables Phoenix to be creative and find explosive value from his flash where other agents may falter. An example is Reyna, whose blind can be shot out before providing any real value. This isn't to say her flash is bad by any means, I just don't think it provides very much utility against teams that are coordinated and know how to counter a blind that can be shot. The other types of duelists I want to compare Phoenix's entry ability to is ones who rely on movement instead of flashes, as they are a massive part of the meta, as can be seen with the high pick rates of agents like Jett and Raze, who both place in the top 5 highest picked agents in Valorant. So how does Phoenix stack up against some of the titans of Valorant? I think he fares quite well when you compare him to the likes of Jett and Raze, because even though he may not share the same pace as either of those agents, he provides unique opportunities with another one of his abilities, being his firewall. It's another great example of versatility within Phoenix's kit, as he is able to bend his wall around varying objects, allowing him to be flexible with the angles he cuts off, making it much easier to initiate 1v1s. He can also flash out from his own firewall, giving him even more surprise factor, allowing him to engage with enemies from either side of his wall. This leads to another one of my points, that Phoenix's abilities complement each other perfectly, which can be seen across multiple agents in Valorant, but I don't think any are quite as prevalent as Phoenix. This is unlike any of the movement-based duelists who have great tools to enter site quickly, but may struggle when they find themselves stuck in 2v1s or even 3v1s that are near impossible to win. And yes, you can make the argument that these types of duelists get support from the rest of their team in order to make up for these shortcomings, but that point is a two-way street, as Phoenix can also be supported just as much by his team. So going back to the topic of Phoenix's ability to enter the site and take 1v1s, he is quite simply one of the best. He is able to control the pace of his entry and meld his utility perfectly to give him the advantage in a variety of different situations. This is one of the advantages that being a jack-of-all-trades type of duelist has. One last argument I want to quickly shoot down is Neon's wall, because though good, it doesn't provide the same strengths as Phoenix's wall, as you can't bend it, causing it to be more situational, and also Neon's kit doesn't provide the same surprise factor as Phoenix's. This is because her utility gives her enemies much more time to react to the things she does. Moving on to the next point, let's see how well Phoenix is able to initiate a site and take space for his team. To start with, Phoenix's ability to block off angles and flash out spaces makes him great at clearing out space quickly and taking the fight to the enemy. But in this case, his wall and flash aren't the only great tools he has here, as his molly provides an invaluable corner checking ability that forces enemies out of spots and saves your more important utility for later. Phoenix also possesses one of the deadliest space-taking ults in the game. The primary reason for this is nobody wants to fight an opponent who they get no reward for killing, so many opponents tend to leave sites wide open for you and your team to initiate an attack, and even in the case that they don't retreat, you can find value by getting kills with your ult and being traded out by your teammates. His ults compare to the likes of Raze, Breach, and Killjoy, who all find value in their ults by forcing enemies to reposition or be harshly punished. And now let's finally take a look at Phoenix's ability to adapt. This is in my opinion one of, if not Phoenix's strongest attribute up to this point. He is able to quickly react to situations and has utility that meshes well with any scenario. You can take advantage of any corner through the use of his flash, and if none are in sight, then you can use his wall to create space that makes his flashes near unpredictable. This isn't the only situation where his wall is useful either. You can use it defensively to cut off angles, allowing you and your team to reposition or push onto a site. But again, this showcases Phoenix's flexibility as he can use his wall in different ways depending on the situation. His ult is also one of the most adaptable in the game, as he can use it to engage a site for his team, clutch a 1v1, or gain information before a team makes a move onto a site. No matter what angle you look at it from, Phoenix's ult finds value no matter the scenario. So summing up all the key points that make a good duelist, you can see that Phoenix has great synergy and flexibility with his utility, which allow him to engage the enemies and open gaps for his team, all while having the ability to demand space. But this leads to my next point, that there are other duelists in Valorant who also have all of these traits, but I wouldn't say they are perfect by any means. So what separates Phoenix from being great to perfect? The things that I believe give Phoenix the final push to being a perfect duelist is his sustainability. Along with being extremely flexible and versatile, he is also able to heal himself while still making use of his utility. And yes, there are agents that heal, so a team can solve this issue of sustainability. But this is only so effective because those supporting agents have to be alive nearby and actually still have their healing utility available. And as a duelist, you have to make the most out of any push, and sometimes that means you can't get a heal from your Sage or Skye, meaning that having a portable heal is a very strong tool. With this sustainability, you also open up options for your healers, as they don't have to waste valuable healing utility on you, but can instead target their healing on agents that can't sustain themselves. Another reason Phoenix's sustainability is extremely powerful is his ultimate, which may not be a big factor if his ult wasn't so easy to cycle, but all you have to do is get a kill or two and die every round, and you'll have a second life with no punishments every couple of rounds. You could even go a step further and collect an ult orb every round, which enables you to cycle a massive amount of ults. But just the concept of a second life with no strings attached is a great tool that allows Phoenix to become the perfect duelist, as he can rush into a fight and open up a round for his team with absolutely nothing to lose, which is precisely the thing that every duelist wants to do. So to put it simply, the things that make Phoenix a perfect duelist is his sustainability, which gives his team more options for keeping others alive, the synergy and flexibility of his utility, which allow for an unpredictable and effective way to net kills, and a perfectly designed ult that fits the role of a duelist extremely well. Other than that, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below what I could do to improve my content in the future.